Before we get started, anyone interested in ordering Mr. Lindell's 4-CD set, go to metaphysicalarttheater.com. For those in the U.S., you can order physical copies or the digital downloads. For those outside the U.S., you can order the digital downloads by going to metaphysicalarttheater.com.
How you doing, sir?
Okay, just fine. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. So
Yeah, I know.
we often talk about it, but it's as you think you are. Is that the case?
Yeah, whatever you choose to believe, you're delivered into. You got that?
I do.
You see, that's really something someone should really think about. What you choose to believe. Now we're saying choose to believe, you're delivered into. Now, what are you choosing to believe? And you say, oh, I'm already there. Well, actually, you're told to bring heaven on earth. So we may not be experiencing that right here, right now. But we are.
Yeah. You say that, and it's actually a dilemma that I find within the community that a lot of people are not experiencing so-called heaven on earth. And you said we may not be experiencing that right now, but why aren't we experiencing heaven on earth right now?
Because we keep putting it off.
Okay.
But we put off delivering ourselves to ourselves. We're not really involved in self enough to actually know self. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I'm going to get
Really?
some clarity. So I'm going to ask clarity on that. So when you say involved with self enough, because many people seem to be self-absorbed, but they're still not getting what it is that they want. So when you say not involved in self enough, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, they're self-absorbed because they're absorbed by the outside, which is all secondhand.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a new idea, then you have to step back, sit down, be quiet, and make a new idea for yourself. Because look, you're choosing yourself every day what you're going to experience. You may say, well, I ain't choosing anything. Well, then that just means you're allowing yourself to be chosen for by everything going on around you. Look, your environment is not to be your controlling effect. It's you who is the controlling effect of you, hopefully. Because look, what you're looking for is looking for you. Isn't that so?
It is so, no matter what it is. I think that we think that only the lovely and of good report, when we hear that, we think that I need to focus on that. But you said it, whatsoever you're looking for is looking for you.
That's it. That's it. And if you just had a nightmare, you're going to have another one. Or it'll be extended and extended as long as you hold that idea, as long as you hold that feeling. That's what you're going to be experiencing. So if it's not lovely and of good report, just drop it and move on quickly, because that's getting in the habit of moving on quickly from an undesirable idea is really, really wise, wouldn't you say?
I would say, I think that that's a actually very great application. You said move on quickly because, of course, many of us are occupying the nightmares. And you say, okay, that's happened. Move on from it by, of course, giving your attention to something else. Is that correct?
That's it. Look, we're all conditioned to the ongoing drama, all of us, to a greater or lesser degree. But you are conditioned to the ongoing drama. If you don't get your mind straight on that, the rest of this is not really going to make much sense, because it's you who is making your future moment by moment. Isn't that the problem?
That is the problem, or the solution.
Yes, that's right. Or the solution. No, that's absolutely correct, because you're thinking all the time. Do you know about what?
Yeah, that's true.
Better know about what, or it'll all be a surprise to you, believe me.
I'm glad you said that. Somebody had posted in the group a question just about that. And they said, well, if you don't, they said, well, does Neville address when you don't know what you want, what you're to focus on? And I told him, I said, you can't give subconscious mind anything to work with if you don't know what you want. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. In other words, you're running blind. That's what you're doing. If you're not the one choosing, you're running blind, and you can get a lot of bumps in your head that way. I can tell you, because I did. But anyway, the point is that you're the one who is in control. Yeah, even if you seem to be out of control, you're still the one choosing your day. Even though you're not consciously choosing it, you are choosing it, and that's what you want to really focus on. What are you thinking about generally most of the time, most of the day? What really has your attention? Because that's what has your life. I don't know how to say it any other way, but what has your attention has your life right to this moment. Isn't that so?
That's absolutely so. And I think that in hearing these talks, I think that, these little nuggets, these gems that they're receiving, as such as what has your attention has your life. And many of us it's like the scripture says, you look in a mirror and then you walk away and you forget about the image that you see in the mirror. We give something our attention, then we, move on with our lives. And then we wonder after we've given this thing our attention and it shows up, where did this come from?
Yeah, you might forget.
Yeah.
You see, but consciousness doesn't. So what you have planted, you are going to experience unless you canceled it. And what I mean by cancel, it's just delete, on the computer, you put delete,
yeah.
You get rid, but it only goes in the garbage can.
Yeah.
You see, so you can retrieve it. You see, that's what most people do. They only put it in the garbage can, but every once in a while they go over and take a look in there and wonder why they can't get rid of it.
Yeah. In saying that, the other thing that we miss sometimes is when you delete that file, it's best to replace that file with something else.
Immediately.
Yes.
Immediately. Because you see that's the thing we miss. We don't do things immediately. When we know that's the moment to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We put it off till later. That's really easy to do. In fact, you do it so often, it becomes a habit to just put things off until later. And then, but you see, when later shows up, you still ain't ready because you forgot about it.
Yeah. You said something about habit. And I had a client recently, and she said her habit was that of procrastination. And she said, well, how can I get over the habit of procrastination? I said, well, stop procrastinating. I said, but don't try to do everything all at once. Start picking some things that you've committed to do and start doing them immediately. And then make that a habit. I said, start practicing the habit. But that's the challenge. Most people, they hear this stuff and they think that by osmosis, all of a sudden they're going to have a changed life, and they're often not putting the work in. But you have to, you said it took you years to get this stuff. Let's talk about that.
But that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Because it took me years. And when I finally understood what was happening, well, I could see in retrospect, it didn't need to take years.
Yeah.
That was just me. I wasn't focusing on what I should be focusing on. I was focusing on what I didn't want, which is how you get it.
Yeah. I love that.
You get what you're here to get rid of. You see, you have to let it go. And if you let it go, where do you let it go to? Let go and let God. Can you do that? Could you even try it once in a while? Because it really works for you if you do. If you get serious, it'll work for you. It works for anyone. It is everybody's message. You see, that's the only reason why we're here. It's for everybody. And we know there are people who don't really know it yet. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you that I plumbed the depth of any of this, but you got the idea. I'm here sharing what I got as far along as I got. And I can tell you, there are some that I told who went right ahead of me. You understand? They got it right off, and I didn't. But that's why I'm here. You don't need to take years to do this. You can go that route. I mean, that's the route I went. You can do that, but why? Because then you're in a waiting position, but waiting for what? See, you don't even clarify that. You don't even clarify what you want, and then you're wondering why you ain't getting it. What? You ain't asking for it. You're asking for what you don't want because that's what you're experiencing. You see, that's what you're going to be experiencing, what you actually are asking for. And so if you're experiencing, you know what you did ask for. And then don't kid yourself. It don't go away by itself. You have to let it go. It ain't going to be taken away from you. Not a negative, anyway. You just have to watch what you're talking to yourself about. It's really that's simple, isn't it?
It is. It is. You say, listen, it's not going to be taken away from you. Certainly not a negative. And the truth of the matter is, I mean, the way that we change anything is by us thinking on something new, as you often say. You said something earlier. You said it doesn't need to take years, and that's encouraging because you said it doesn't need to take years because there's some that you told this to and they went ahead of you. And that's so encouraging for the person that's listening because a lot of times they're frustrated and they listen to people talk and tell these messages, as it were, and they think that it may require years. But you're saying, listen, it doesn't require years.
No, it doesn't. As a matter of fact, weeks and months maybe, but it doesn't take. Look, you can get the idea right away. I'll give it to you. There it is. As you think you are. There it is. You start there with your contemplation and meditation. And let me tell you that you are contemplating. You are meditating. You may be doing a lousy job of it because I did that for years. And thought I was doing something and it was nothing. But that's what you do when you just sit there and just allow thoughts to run. What was it, 70,000 thoughts a day?
At least, yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's how many right through. But the ones that matter are the ones you latch onto. Those ideas that come through that you actually hold on to and think of, even if it's a negative, for a few minutes, and then all that you're back in the world again. Just like that. As you think, you are, you do, you have, you be. That's what Scripture's been telling you all along. But I don't know. You get caught up in the stories, and that just goes out of mind. And if it's out of mind, then you're not using it. You have the power, and that's what you're using, but rather poorly, maybe. I'm sure it was. I know that guy does.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to catch yourself. Absolutely. I was at the store today and I was in line. We're in checkout. And so the line branched off into two lines. So there were two ladies ahead of me and there was a gentleman to the side of the two ladies. And so I inquired with the two ladies. I said, you guys don't mind if I go to the other line? I said, I don't want to get ahead of you. And they said, no, go ahead. The gentleman that was next to them, I thought was with them. He says, you didn't ask me. It's a pretty big guy. I said, well, listen, you can go ahead. I said, you can go ahead. He says, no, I just want you to know that you didn't ask me about getting ahead of me. I said, listen, you're giving me attitude. I said, but if you want to go ahead, please go ahead. And I released it. Now, another me, sometime back before I understood these principles, would have found myself in dispute and probably getting beat up. But it wasn't necessary. My thing was, if I made an error, go ahead of me, take the spot, and let's move on, So, but it was easier for me to release that situation because I understand these principles. So a lot of times we're going to be faced with daily challenges. And the question is, because we're creative, what do we do with them?
Practice what you preach.
Yeah.
And everybody's a preacher.
Absolutely.
Everybody is a preacher preaching something.
Absolutely.
But it's up to the individual to discern what's hitting the eardrum. You see, because once you let it in and think about it, even for a moment, well, you just bought it.
Yeah.
And if you stick with it a little while, you'll bond with it. Meaning you made a mindset that's going to act automatically. It's going to act automatically. Do you get that?
Yeah.
I mean, you set up these mindsets and they act automatic. They're not going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, we're going to say this. they go ahead and say it, and then you're going, what? Because that's the point. You're in charge. Take charge. Stand up and claim what you are. I am that what? And claim it often. Do it every time you can think about it. Claim, I am that. I may be doing this, but I am that.
Yeah.
And it's you who has to make the distinction. No, nobody else can make it for you. I mean, you're on all the time. You're the one who's either setting yourself free or bonding yourself. So, and you know what you're doing because you know what you're feeling at the moment, or why you're listening to this to try to get out of a situation, which you can do. You can't be blamed for doing it wrong unless you could do it right. And you can do it right. And you're told, Jesus told you how to do it over and over and over throughout the story. I mean, and I didn't get it either. I heard it, I read it, I don't know how many times. But you see, I was thinking of it as secular history. But it's not secular history, it's divine history. It includes everything. You're on all the time, and you have everything at your disposal for choosing from, because creation's finished. What you're doing, you're not really creating anything. You're choosing from creation. And that's what you were given permission to do with choose this day. Is that not so?
Absolutely. And you brought about a point about creation. It's absolutely true. We're not creating anything. Thousands of years, millions of years, everything that was needed to make a car already existed. It was already in the earth. We just weren't at the level of understanding back then to form a car. So the last 150 years, we had people make cars, spaceships, rocket ships, airplanes, but all of those materials, like Mr. Lindell just stated, have always been there. So we're only pulling from what God has given us to pull from. And what we do, we may use creativity to create from that creativity of what's been given to us, but we can't create from something that's not there. So it's
creatively choosing.
Absolutely. Creatively choosing, like Fitz said. So yeah, we're actually, so in the creation, we're co-creating with God at that point, because he's given us everything that we need. And if you can thank it, then you have to understand the wherewithal is also present to create it. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, where did it come from?
Yeah.
I mean, where did they get all the stuff for the automobile? Out of the ground.
Yeah.
And it didn't grow.
That's true. That's true.
So everything on the without is out of man's mind. Out of his mind. Well, yeah, that's
out of his mind.
That's true too.
Most of us.
Because he really created some real doozies. Yeah, it still brings to mind, you can't make a war on somebody without making a war on yourself, right?
That's absolutely true.
So if you hold that in mind, that you can't say something to someone it's going to upset them.
That's true. That goes back to what was said. The guy, when he made his statement, I could have come back with hostility and said, whatever. But I didn't give him, and I said, listen, go ahead, take my spot if
That
you
was your first thought.
it used to be, not in this, now
No,
today,
no,
it
no.
wasn't. But in the past, give him a piece of my mind. So, but that used to be my first thought. So that's the growth process because
Yes.
it wasn't my first thought. So, yeah,
Hey, but the thing of it is, people don't give themselves credit for what they do.
that's true.
I mean, I understand you don't want to take credit for the negatives you do, but I mean, you don't even take credit for the positive you do because that's it. You do take credit for the negatives, you just deny them,
Yeah,
you see, but that doesn't get rid of them, just denying them. They're still there. You have to exchange another thought for that one to push that one out completely, right?
absolutely.
Isn't that the way it is?
That's true.
You,
That's
you get
exactly how it
another
is.
thought and you focus on that new thought,
A new thought.
even for a few minutes at a time, and it starts growing.
Yeah,
But so does the negative.
yeah,
See, you want to understand that too. That when you just for a moment you get upset, you see, you're setting yourself up for negatives for until you change your mind again.
yeah.
How long would it be? I mean, some people really enjoy being mad.
That's true. Yeah, I've met quite a few of them, but that's absolutely true. And
They look for reasons to be mad.
yeah,
And you know what? They always find them.
yeah. You know what? And you say that, but we live in a society where everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but a majority of the people are looking for a reason to be offended. So everybody's offended about something. Some things that people are offended by, I am so amazed. And I'm like, that's what you're giving your attention to, but everybody's looking for a reason to be offended.
That's it. That's it. And they're looking for a reason to be upset, but they don't want to take credit for being upset. And they don't want to take credit for not being upset. And it just a situation that just went by.
Yeah.
But it didn't. You see, you're setting yourself up at every moment of time, or you're setting yourself free at every moment of time as you think you are. What are you? I mean, right now, what are you? I mean, are you happy? I mean, are you looking forward to a great future? Is that what you're doing? Well, wonderful. Build on it. Just stay with it and build on it. But if you're thinking a negative idea, drop it immediately, take something else into view. And when I say into view, you're using your imagination. That's the theater of the mind. You're seeing yourself actually doing and being what it is you desire, hopefully. but 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 it's up to you to see that it is, because what has your attention has your life. Isn't that it? I mean,
Yeah,
that's simple, isn't it?
it is that simple. You said something, and you said, listen, what are you? And you said, listen, if you want to be happy, then be happy. And I hear so many people. There was somebody that made a recent post, and they were saying that, when they moved to this new location, when they got into this perfect relationship, when they created more friends, then they could have the perfect life or the happy life. I said, perfect and happy starts now. I said, you have to get
That's
in
it.
your imagination and be happy now. Realize that everything is perfect. Scripture calls perfect complete. Everything is complete now. If you keep putting it off to the future, it's going to keep being in the future.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. It's always then.
Yeah.
Neville talked about going into the future and bringing it back,
Yeah.
you see, and then experiencing it here so that when you get there, you're not as surprised.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And I used to laugh at that. I did. But when I first heard that, I go, now wait a minute. He's going a little too far here. But when it happened to me, I was still surprised. Like I'd never heard it before. I mean, because actually I never did hear it before. That was the fact. I knew about it, but you see, knowing about it and thinking from it, that's two different things altogether. Get yourself set in that right there. That's two different things. Thinking from and thinking of is two different things. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. And we both know that most people, 97% of the population, is thinking about.
That's right. Yeah, I did that. See, that was one of those things that took me years to do this
Yeah.
because I kept saying to myself, later, later, I'll do that later.
Yeah.
But you see, there is no later. It's always now.
Always.
And now what you're told is the appointed hour to cause desired change right now. I mean, you're looking at futures to make a change, and I'm telling you, it happens right now. You make up your mind right now, I am that, and you stick with it, and you'll be it. That it?
That's absolutely it. That's absolutely it. So many people are chasing their future, but they find that they never catch it.
That's right. That's exactly, no, that's exactly, you're right. That's exactly what they do. They're chasing it, and they never catch it. But it's still looking for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And especially if it's a negative.
Yeah.
Because you give so much force to the negatives. You really do. You give it total range sometimes. In fact, people say, oh, I'm just going all to pieces.
Yeah.
No, you've been all in pieces. It's time to get it together.
Yeah. And
now is the appointed hour for doing that. And that's what you keep, Jesus told you, now is the appointed hour. Now, not later, now. In fact, I can't see it. They got a big sign up there that says now. And it's really, it gets a little tiresome after a while. Everything, do it now. I should be pretty good at that because of my wife. She said, well, when are you going to do it? I said, I'll get to it. She says, yes, I know you will, but when? Well, she keeps me kind of on the straight and narrow here. But yeah, look at you. Too bad we just can't spread it around by just,
you know what, but we're sowing the seeds. We're sowing the seeds.
Yes. But it has to be watered.
Yeah.
You see, and that means then they have to take over.
Yeah.
And do the watering, because in other words, bringing it up. I mean, the negatives you don't have to bring up. They're ego's got them at hand. He can throw one at you at any moment just to get your attention, because he wants your attention. And that's the whole thing. Your attention is everything. That's what you are. That's what you do. That's what you have. What has your attention? As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, so does he, so has he. Look, it's really very simple. And if you just keep it simple, you can remember it. And if you remember it, you might even do it, right?
Absolutely. You said that the negative is so easy, and it's so true, because we've given the negative. I know people that are very powerful manifestors, that they can pretty much manifest pretty much anything they want. But when manifestation fails to take place and life appears to be not going the way that they think that it should be, it's like they throw these principles out the window. And I have to remind them, even as people remind me, that it's still being worked out. Don't judge according to appearance. Appearance, as you say, is always changing. And so I get concerned when people say, well, when it's perfect, because when you have a different perception, even that which is perfect, if you're not in the right space to receive perfect, you're not going to see perfect. So it's all subjective when we're talking about that which is perfect. But just, you said something about Neville, and Neville saying, go to the end and bring the end back to the present and begin living from the present moment. And that's the key. You can't get caught up on what you see. You have to, as Mr. Lindell says often, think from and cease to think of, but many of us, we just get so sidetracked when life seems to throw us a curveball.
Yeah, actually. And you do have little premonitions
Yeah.
of things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
And you can easily change your future right there.